terms of, fintechs and how they interact with banks, are becoming banks. QuickBooks has announced QuickBooks Cash. Behind the scenes, it is actually a different, it is a bank that's backing it, but they're promoting it as a business operating account combined with the, features of QuickBooks, right? Accounting and those sorts of things, invoicing tools and that sort of thing. Gusto has announced that as well, Square and others. So when you think about as a banker, what does that mean for you? It means that you likely have an overlapping client pool with fintechs who are looking to disintermediate you.
Right.
Our approach to that is very different. So, historically, if, as part of starting a business relationship, a banker was asked, what would you recommend for accounting software? QuickBooks, Intuit, they're the largest in the small business space in the United States. They might reflexively say, well, I guess QuickBooks, right? That's what people use. Well, now QuickBooks is turning around and offering deposit accounts to those clients. And so, bankers need to be really aware of that, right? That old, fox in the hen house scenario. Our approach is to take our tools, make them available through financial institutions at a discount, but everything we do is very collaborative. So we provide those back office tools for the business, but it also enhances connectivity in terms of relationship banking, right? So, when a bank needs financing, there's a pain point related to applying for that financing, getting financial statements together and those sorts of things. We facilitate that, enhancing that relationship, allowing the banker to solve more business problems than they do today. And then especially in a capital conversation, speeding that up, right? Handling the data, categorization, getting the reporting together in the first place so that you can then have a conversation about, Mr. Business or Mrs. Business, what is the best solution for you? In my opinion, it's this, right? And that's the real value add, right? Getting the paperwork together is sort of a commoditized piece of it.
Gotcha. So one other question, I got two more questions for you. So seeing that, this is a software that's built in the cloud and it's easily accessible and, banks want to find out, how long does it take to integrate with Finsync? And, what does that look like from a time frame and also just the amount of effort it takes to implement Finsync?
Yeah, so interesting. We just produced an FAQ about misconceptions about that. What does it take to work with a fintech and with us specifically? There is a perception out there that implementing a fintech partnership means negotiating with your core, going through an IT exercise of connectivity behind the scenes. And those processes, in most people's mind, I think would mean at least, a period of months, if not longer, right? And we certainly hear stories of implementation that last for over a year. That's not uncommon in the space. Because of the way we are a cloud delivered service, implementing us, realistically, once you, agree to join the Finsync network, we can have you deployed on the next business day. But it's because the way we connect is not anything new or anything required on the bank side. It's already there. Gotcha. So really, it's a marketing exercise. It's how do you want to promote these new capabilities that you can give to your business clients, and we help in that regard as well. We do marketing audits and make suggestions there as well. But the main takeaway is, I think people have a lot of fear about how many committees and what that time span could be. And by the time they get there, is this even, what we thought we needed, all those sorts of things, right? So fintechs, I think people need to, at least with regards to us, be aware that it is more of a marketing initiative. Right. And at the end of the day, it's, how can you provide more value to businesses and solve more problems? But the way we deliver it is, we call it plug and play, right? So it's really joining, and then we decide how we, promote it.
Absolutely. That's good to know, because I know I've been a part of a few implementations that, drag on and on and on, and to have something that's plug and play that you could just, use, like you said, a marketing exercise to really implement and get it done. That's a really good thing. So one of the last few questions I have for you. So, and this is unrelated to anything else. So what books, what podcasts, what are you listening to? What are you reading right now? What interests you?
So I'm in the middle of two books, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Okay.
Have read a number of his books, big fan there. And then the other one I believe is called 1 Minute to Midnight, which is a historical retelling of the Cuban Missile Crisis, almost play by play. Would recommend both of those.
Okay.
In terms of podcasts, and I'll mention another book in that regard. I'm a little behind on my podcast because I'm not commuting right now.
Right.
But the one that I really like is it's Tim Ferriss. He's the author that did the 4-Hour Work Week.
Yes.
He interviews, a broad swath of successful folks from all walks of life. And for folks that are looking for, more, books to put on the to be read list, he's also a great resource. And he also has a book that is, covers some of the same folks, but Tools of the Titans is a very digestible book that is a compilation of, some very successful folks. And he asked them the same thing. What books, if you had to recommend what book, what would you recommend? So that's a great resource for that as well. But I would recommend the podcast and that book of his. Awesome.
Thank you. I'm always looking for new resources and new books and new things to recommend. So that's great. So what I typically do at the end of the podcast is ask, what is one fun thing or something that nobody knows about you that you would want to share?
I have some odd talents, but I can walk on my hands, actually. So
okay.
I think my wife knows that, but I don't know that very many other people know that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Maybe we'll have to get an exercise one day so I can see that happening.
There you go. We'll do it.
So Eddie, thanks for joining me today. How can people get in contact with you guys if they want to? How can banks get in contact with you if they want to reach out and get your services?
Yeah, so definitely head over to Finsync.com, Finsync.com. And then in the top navigation, the network, have a look there. But they can schedule a demo with us. They can reach out to us. All the standard channels, phone and chat are there as well. But it starts at Finsync.com. I would encourage folks to stop by.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Eddie. Again, I appreciate your time on Geek Speak Podcast, and hopefully we'll get you on again sometime in the future.
Awesome, Lincoln. I sure appreciate it. Great to see you.
Thanks. Have a good one.
All right. You as well.
Okay. What a great interview with Eddie Davis of Finsync. I told you that you were going to learn a lot. I told you that you were going to learn what Finsync offers, what's the difference between QuickBooks Online, Gusto, Paychex, and how you can utilize their software at your bank and also for your small business. So I learned a lot in that interview with Eddie. I also learned that Eddie can walk on his hands. Okay. I mean, who would have ever thought? Okay. We have to see that one day. But I really appreciate Eddie being on, and I had a great time with this interview. And I think Finsync is a company that you really need to check out. So I hope you enjoyed this interview, and I hope to see you next time. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and I just want to ask a few favors from you. If you don't mind sharing this podcast with some of your friends, either on social media or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now, I ask if you can share that with your audience. I'd also ask if you can subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss out on any of the interviews that we're going to be releasing for the remainder of the year in season number 2. And then also, if you don't mind giving us a positive rating and rate the podcast and a review, and also ask any questions that you want to have on the Geek Speak podcast. So again, I want to thank you for joining us and see you next time.